Yo,
Yo.
what's up with you? What's going on?
Man, another week, man. And we here. We enjoying it. I went this past weekend. I went to go see Eddie Griffin perform
Where at?
in New York.
Oh
Solid.
man,
That was pretty fun, man. I enjoyed it. He's funny.
Yeah, he a vet. That's like what, 25 plus year career?
Yep.
longer than that.
Yeah.
Is it longer than that?
And he
25.
said he had been in 75 movies.
Yeah,
Dang.
And then he started naming them, and I'm like, oh shoot, he wasn't that. And he
yeah.
was
Yeah.
that. Yo, he been putting work in, man. Shout out to Eddie Griffin.
And he's super smart, bro. He's super
He is
smart.
really smart.
Yeah, he's really smart. And they the ones they don't give a whole lot of credit to. The smart comedians. You feel me? The
That's
brothers have actual intellect
Right.
and
And
know,
they
and
also
know what's
want
really going on.
but that's another one.
I mean, they gave whatchamacallit his flowers. He pretty smart. I think he might be in terms of like political satire. I don't think nobody know how to put a joke
So
better.
you talking about
than him.
Dave Chappelle?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Chappelle is my favorite comedian living right now.
Yo, that boy goated.
Actual facts. Chappelle had to sell out first to be able to reach the level he at.
For sure.
Crazy.
You feel me?
Crazy.
And I would say that that's why some of the other ones haven't made it as far as they made it because they refused to do content that they didn't control. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Now he got it. In my opinion, better late than never every
Mm.
time. And shout out to him because now he has done a tremendous amount to reverse that little bit of comedy that he gave us when I was in high school that was damaging to the culture. He's done a
Right.
tremendous amount to bring it back. So shout out to him.
Was it really damaging to the culture though?
Wasn't it? Now, to be honest with you, right? We all knew the stuff he was talking about, but the rest of the world didn't.
Right. So it's time that they
Now
do.
they did. So he aired us out. And if we talking about a perspective of buffoonery, it could very well be that. And he said in his own words, he realized they wasn't necessarily laughing the way we was laughing. He said he
Right.
realized they was laughing in a different way, and that
Right.
stunk.
Right.
You know what I mean?
See, that's the challenging part because it was funny. I ain't
It
gonna hold you. It was funny.
But it's like, we could talk about each other, but don't we family, and I ain't gonna have nobody else talking about us.
right.
I think that's where it was damaging for the culture. He kind of opened the door to make our culture a laughing stock.
Yeah, because Pandora's box was wide open after that joint.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Now,
See, they coming out.
Genius,
He was. He is.
absolutely.
He is.
And it was like I to this day laugh at and quote the Chappelle Show to include the Hollywood stories with Charlie Murphy. That's
Golden.
like fire in the bottle gold.
Golden.
Nah,
Yeah.
I think the best joint he had was the black dude that was blind and thought he was white. The black
Clay
race.
Bixby.
Yeah.
Clay Bixby.
Woogie,
Yeah.
woogie.
Boy,
Yeah. Clayton
I
Bixby,
smell
man.
cocoa butter.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was crazy. He was definitely crazy.
was.
But I heard they about to come out with another scary movie.
Yeah.
Oh, that's gonna be clutch. That's gonna be
Yeah.
clutch. I'm
And
ready
that
for
was
that.
and that when that came out when we was young. That's when comedy was able to touch the community, like seriously, just be funny. Like you wasn't worried about, oh no, that hurt somebody's feelings.
Right.
Comedians can't even do that anymore, man. Got to be politically correct.
And it's back with the Wayans brothers. So this thing it's gonna be like the first one.
Another titan of a family.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Because by the time we got to the third one, I ain't really feel it that much no more.
Because they weren't in control.
I was about to say they wasn't right there no more.
The comedy was coming from the other people. The other people can't make fun of us. You feel me? The way we can make fun of us. And that's what I'm saying. It's okay. Like if you're family, it's okay that you laugh. I thought it was always okay, but people get in their bag and feel some type of way and want to cancel people, man. Like, no, it's comedy. If you don't like that they're making fun of you, then you should stop whatever they're making fun of.
Right.
But
or stop tuning in.
That actually might be a good segue to today's topic.
Yeah.
What's today's topic?
Low key. That's
whatever we want to do.
Yeah. So today's topic is about freedom. I mean, we got a lot of stuff going on in the media right now concerning political freedom. And there's a whole bunch of things we can go down. I do want to start with politics though.
Cool.
What's your take on what's going on right now with American politics specifically? You know, gas prices going up, the war. What you got, Drew?
Um, War cost. It's an emotional cost. It's a monetary cost.
That's a-
Every empire in history paid for wars, and the ones that were brought down, most of them were brought down because they could no longer afford to fund the wars. Now, with that being said, here we are in America right now today. And man, listen, you know I'm torn on this because one, I am a warrior, right? So I do understand the necessity of having a military to protect us and to carry out our interest, foreign interest, right? And but I'm not so certain that the stuff that's going on right now, I mean it depending on whose perspective you're looking at it from, it could be very well interpreted that is within our foreign interest. So here's why, right? America has lived with dollar hegemony control for what is it, 80 years, the last 80 years, right? And as a result of it, we've established a quality of life that we've become accustomed to. On one end, oil, right? Possession and control of oil, bringing more into the supply, brings the prices down and allows us to live comfortably at the gas pump, right? And when that supply gets hit and demand maintains, prices are going to raise, right? So now who controls that oil is the next winner, right? And I also, the economics behind it, we're not winning this economic battle at all with our adversaries. So, I mean, in a lot of ways, for us to maintain this quality of life that we have, these moves may have to be made. Now, there's that side, right? That's me understanding empire and understanding, when the way Caesar rolls, right? Andrew, man with the desire to be free, and notice how I worded that, so we could touch on that later. Andrew, the man with the desire to be free, I'd rather spread love and not war. And I feel like maybe there could be a deal made, but I also know the world we live in. And I don't know if a deal could be made without pressure. And I think that that's what this all comes down to, pressure to make a deal. I think that Iran is not our target, maybe Israel's target, but that's another story for some more foreign conflict conversation for another day. But I believe our skin in the game is to shut down China's oil supply, who is dependent on it, and shift the economic tide so that we could have some kind of leverage in this negotiation that we totally lack as a country. So strategy wise, I think that is why most people are getting behind it, that's getting behind it. But the unfortunate reality is that I don't think that people are paying attention as to how dangerous of a game this is that we playing. So that's what
Yeah,
I think. I think it's a very much double-edged sword, a very much situation of damned if we do and damned because we can't.
I think I think it's tough, no matter how you look at it. I do think there are some things that we are not privy to that is determining some of the decisions that are seemingly happening that we're kind of making judgment calls on it. But I think there's smaller things at play when you talk about like economic infrastructure globally that's impacting some of the decisions. Um, I do think we moved a bit faster than normal in terms of like how America usually kind of responds to global responses. But I mean, that's a result of, our leadership right now. Um, uh, but what I find striking is there's a lot of people that are in support of it. And the people that are in support of it ain't never wore a uniform. And that's where I'm like, yo, you don't even know what it means. Like you really don't even know what it means to actually put the uniform on and be called to do something. And not even just to be called to do something. Even you don't even know what it's like to just train. Because the training environment is still significantly worse than what most people experience in their life. Right? Like I'm pretty sure there's not many people in this world outside of military that has gone a week without showering. Right? You know what I mean? Like
I have.
I don't think many people know what it means to be in the military. Like, have you had to live outside for multiple days on it? A month.
A month.
Right.
A month. Eat MREs. A month.
Tire.
Eating what?
MRE. I was ready to eat. Food in the bag.
Astronaut food.
Vacuum packed. Heated up. Got a little green bag with some little seeds in there that you pour in the water and get hot.
Right. 2,000 calories. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think people know what it means.
Processed food.
Yep.
Pooping in the woods too?
Absolutely. Wag bags.
Facts.
Education through defecation?
Yeah.
How you think it came about?
Yeah, wait. Since we're on the topic of MREs, Drew, I gotta know your favorite MRE.
My favorite one. So I didn't have a favorite MRE, but I love that lemon poppy seed cake. That shit was delicious.
That's fair.
The jalapeno cheese.
Yeah.
And then I didn't like the cracker, but I like that little bread thing. The jalapeno cheese with the bread, the soft bread.
I know what you're talking
about.
Dang, the marble cake ain't make the list.
So it did, but that wasn't my favorite one. The lemon poppy joint was.
Yeah, that's fair.
So now the marble cake is delicious. All them cakes was delicious.
Yeah,
they were all delicious.
Yeah.
I didn't like the tuna MRE, which is crazy because I eat tuna now. But all of the other MREs, they all was ass equally.
Yeah. Well, there was one I was actually pretty cool with. My soldiers knew it. So like anytime I would get one of the ones they like, I push that thing to the side. You can have it. Anytime that chili with beans came, that was for me. The chili with beans was for me.
Yeah.
Out in the woods, you eating beans?
Listen, that chili with beans holds you down, man.
Sure do. Stick to your bones. And the chili mac and the jambalaya, they were two that I would always grab first if I saw them. I can't really say they was my favorites.
Yeah, that's fair. My bad. I didn't mean to divert, but we was
memory. Especially when we talking about politics, I think we could at least reminisce on our time in the military. That's all right.
For sure.
So for me, I haven't really watched the news, right? I've been away from the news for the past 2 years, right? So when I hear things about Trump, I go and investigate and I look it up myself. And when you were talking about China needing fuel from Iran, I went back because we had that conversation before, and I went back and I did some. I was like, wow, like they were really working. China and Russia were really working. You feel me? With Iran against America, and it was like, okay, I understand it. But that whole Israel situation with them and Gaza and how they're trying
it's definitely, it's hands down, it's genocide. And I'm not splitting no hairs or words with that shit. It's genocide.
So for me, it was like, I don't understand the reason for the war. Then when I go to the gas pump now and I'm paying $60 for 3/4 of a tank.
Now
30% of the world's supply is gone. Straight Hormuz shut down.
Now that gas supply issue, there's a lot more at play than just the fact that the current war, right? Like the way our economy is set up now, one drop in the bucket, everyone panics and prices start to fluctuate. But I feel like there is a degree of intentionality behind the gas prices going up because
profits.
100%. Right. Like that is America's number one tax. If I want to levy a tax on all Americans equitably, I can do it through gas, and you can't bat an eye. It's elastic. It's heavily elastic. You gotta buy it.
You gotta buy it.
And it's also it's not by mistake. So bringing it back to our freedoms, right? Can we define freedom? Can I get the good brother to define freedom? Because I'm bit confused as to what the hell it is, if we're being honest.
Hey, so that is a part of today's topic, because how do you define freedom? And I was hoping somebody jump in the comments and give up their definition of how they would define freedom before I say, Merriam-Webster definition. Yeah. But I guess I'll pose the question about freedom before we take it down that avenue. And the question is, does freedom mean no accountability? Because a lot of people like to think freedom means the decision or the choice to do what you want and not have an equal and opposite reaction to the decisions you make. Yeah, and I think that's a bold statement.
It's wild. As a matter of fact, it shows a blatant disregard for our designed reality. Hell, our laws of nature. Right? Cause and effect is real. Just because you free to do it does not mean that you're free of the effect. They are not at all. That's not how it works.
No.
So I guess let's get the opinion from both of y'all. Does freedom exist?
No. I say it does, but like Drew was saying, it doesn't come without effect, right? It doesn't. So can it really exist if it's not without effect, right? So I say yeah, it does exist. I don't want to say it doesn't exist, but I kind of understand where Drew is coming from. So I'm in the middle.
So
let's
exist. Who's free?
I'm free right now.
Are you?
Not without effect. I can say.
No, so I'm not talking about cause and effect free. I'm talking about free. Like, are you really free? Like, you could do whatever you want to do right now, or are you as free as your paycheck allows you to be? Because I really feel like even billionaires, we all slaves to capitalism.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's why I feel like. So that's where I was going at with it. I don't think none of us are free. Now, there's some of us who have a higher degree of freedom than the other. That I'll get behind, right? Some people are more free than others. That I'm gonna go with, right? Because I can't make an argument against that one. Not a good one, right? I could say but in the end, some people are more free than others, but I don't think anybody's free.
Somebody belongs to somebody.
Absolutely. Even if you're a billionaire, you're a slave to that coin.
So you were talking about working. I don't have no job right now. I don't have any. I don't have anybody that I have to answer to. You feel me? And that might have been the reasons why I quit my jobs, because I just wanted to be free. You feel me? Like, I want to be able to do what I do for my community without somebody standing over top of me saying, "Yeah, look what I did," even though it's all my work, right? But I totally understand that. So I would say, I'm not 100% free, but I'm about 50, because I'm still leaning. I'm in a house. I got to pay bills. You feel me? And if I don't pay the bills, guess what? I'm gonna get evicted. You feel me? So I'll be out on the street. Then I'm be 100% free. Then you feel me? Like, so
No, not even then, because then you get
worse.
You said what?
Nah, because even then you get told where you could sleep at, where you could stay at. Society.
I'm going to the woods. Going to the woods.
So
you're going to try to arm me with no MRE.
Listen, I'm gonna get some food. Somebody gonna feed me. You feel me? My homie still works, so as long as my homie still works, I get some food.
Free to roam the woods, but you still not privy to go in certain places. How free are you? You walk into certain establishments, they walking you right out.
Somebody see
in at the door.
If somebody see you walking through the woods at 12 o'clock at night, they might mistake you for Bigfoot.
So I'm asleep. When the sun go down, I'm going to sleep.
So
yeah, that's tough, man. Let's go to what Merriam-Webster, or Google rather. Google defines freedom as the power or right to act, speak, and make choices without unnecessary external constraints, coercion, or confinement. So
that definition, ain't none of us free.
None of
us. So why do we think that freedom is a thing? Like, we as Americans, we profess freedom all day. Like that is for a lot of things that we do, both politically, militarily, we pronounce freedom, and it's like freedom from what?
Yeah, but we was taught that in this Prussian education system that we call school, right?
Mm.
If you think back, you'll remember a time where we stood up every morning and we prayed and we pledged allegiance, and then what did we sing? My country, 'tis of thee. Y'all sing that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I went to Catholic school, so yes, right.
So,
They don't even do the Pledge of Allegiance in school anymore, do they?
I ain't never been in Catholic school. I've been in public school my whole life. I was in white public school in South Carolina and halfway through first grade. And then the other half I was in Booker T and in Columbus and in Showater. And we were still singing the Pledge of Allegiance and them songs at Booker T.
Absolutely.
With Dr. Patino was our principal.
Boy.
So nah, it wasn't just Catholic school. We was in there.
Yo, that's actually kind of crazy that we don't do the Pledge of Allegiance in school no more.
Okay.
Separation of church and state. They don't have us pray. We can't pray in the school no more.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I do think you should have the ability to pray in school. In personal opinion, but you can't force a religion on somebody.
Right.
You pray to whatever religion,
Pray to whatever God you want to pray to. Absolutely,
for sure. But
you could force a pledge of allegiance on them.
And that's what I was about to say. That's a bit challenging because if you call yourself an American, you can't pledge your allegiance to America.
You can, but isn't it anti-American to force it?
That's a challenging perspective. I see where you're going. I think to some degree you can say yes, but the question then becomes, why is it an issue for you to do it? Right? Like if
and then my response is it's not an issue. My issue is with being forced to.
Yeah, but okay. So every game,
our founding fathers, they didn't like getting forced to doing shit either, by the way.
100%. But I'm gonna push back and say, at an HBCU, especially at Howard, before the game start, we're singing the Black National Anthem.
Yeah,
it's not even a debate. We're going to sing that.
Right. Absolutely.
And it's not. I mean, you could call it a choice, but it's not a choice. You're going to sing that Black National Anthem.
I get what you're saying. You don't want to be embarrassed, and you choose to go along with the crowd. But it is a choice.
Nah, but I also took pride in singing it too, though. So it's like,
now we're getting somewhere. There it is.
But
so
as Black people, can we really compare the Pledge of Allegiance to the Black National Anthem?
No. However, as a citizen, there is some degree of pride that should be captured in your country. Now, are we citizens? As an American citizen. Now, the question then becomes, and this is where Pierre is going, I can feel it.
I know.
Are there things in American history that can taint your perspective of how, you are viewed in American society? Absolutely. But even with that being said, I've been to a million places around this world. Right. Hear me out. I can acknowledge that America has some things that we need to reckon with from our history. Not debating that.
Our present too, brother. But go ahead.
And our present. But when I look at the slums of America and I compare that to the slums of other countries, it's actually not that bad. Like a lot of the things that's wrong in our slums, if we're being honest, both whether it's a white slum or a black slum,
it's fixable.
It's fixable, and some of it, I would say probably somewhere around 40% of it is self-imposed.
Right.
And that's a fair critique.
So the only reason I think that your critique is not including behavioral economics, we talked about this last time.
We did.
I think there are silent nudges inside of the system that adjust for that 40% that you're talking about. But I'm gonna digress because I don't want to go down that rabbit hole again.
It's challenging. It's challenging too because I was in Poland and broke bread with this Poland dude that was borderline homeless. Like legit broke bread. He came up, he pulled up. I was eating outside, and he got his meal. And before he ate his meal, I was eating mine. And he was like, "Hey, look, you're not from around here." I could tell the dude didn't have much. He was like, "You're not from around here, but you should have got this meal." He was like, "You got to try it." Opened his plate, before he touched it and shared it with me.
Right.
So at that point, I was like, hey man, let's go back in there. I had to get the man some beers or something. We're gonna sit out here and converse. But just listen to the humanity in this man.
Right.
I'm not from around there. He knew I wasn't from around there. He was like, no, you got to try this dish.
Right.
He open his plate up before he put a fork to his mouth.
Yeah. That's dope.
That's a different type of society.
It is. And that is the key, right? That's why we gotta reckon with stuff from our past and our present. There are so many things in American society that is foundational from slavery that's still in effect right now. You ever heard the term such and such as an at-will state?
Expound.
As employment. So when it's employment, right? If you employed in an at-will state, they can fire you at will. It means that they don't need a process, they don't need a procedure. Do you know that the foundation of at will was so that they can control jobs against black people, to have reasons to be able to fire them so that they could be disenfranchised? Today, as a black human in a black neighborhood, you're 45% more likely to lose your life to a gun violence from police than any other race in their own community. As a black woman giving birth, your birth rates are on par with developing nations that don't have advanced medical science in America in 2026.
Now I don't have a direct response to that, because the statistics for black women with birth rates and the challenges that they have to overcome is like no other.
It's horrible. But it's not for any other reason other than the system has these silent nudges, right?
I will say that there are some silent nudges, but for both of the systems that you just mentioned, I think there are some not so silent nudges that we just don't want to talk about or deal with, right? Like the fact that
I guarantee you every single one of them, I can give you a historical marking where it dates back to some kind of wrong on the people. So let's get into it.
Here's one. We talk about policing and the statistic around you potentially being, gunned down or having a foot placed on your neck, so on and so forth. A part of that statistic can change just off of the fact that, like, nobody from the local city in these black communities, or I won't say nobody, but a majority, are not going to be police officers.
Why?
I can't do the why. Because we can say there is a reason why people are not choosing to be a police officer, but ultimately the requirements to become a cop is pass a physical exam, pass a minimal aptitude test, right? And then you get to have a gun. That's the barometer, right?
All right, so let's start there with the aptitude test, right? The one that's minimal. If it's minimal, then why can't half of the people in Chester to take it pass it?
That's challenging.
Because the system is broken. Because the system don't produce a product that is able to meet the civic need like it's supposed to.
I'm curious.
The system isn't broken. It was created that way.
I'm curious to know how many people. I'm curious to know how many people have taken this test.
Not that many. Right? You have people that can't.
How many people that failed it? I got 3 homies that failed it. I won't air them out, but I know 3 personal people that failed it.
That's the aptitude test for a cop is it's not even fully high school level stuff. It's like 8th grade, 9th grade at the highest. It doesn't exceed algebra.
You went to the high?
Yeah, I went to the high.
So when you was at the high, did you talk to any of those recruiters while you was at the high, the military recruiters? You ever had conversations with them?
No. So I did my so that's a funny story. I actually went to a recruiting office my senior year of high school. I went to the Marines. And I actually passed the test with a Chester High education.
So did I. I got an 83 on the ASVAB, bro. But I also got called a diamond in the rough, and I got told by the recruiters verbatim that very few people from Chester passed the ASVAB.
That's fair. That's fair. I think
I also was in honors classes, bro. I'm well aware that I am part of a percentage of privileged population when it comes to the education curve. I was the person in the class that threw the curve off. They was hoping I wasn't showing up to take the test. I get it. You and I are the same when it comes to that. The difference is you had the discipline to stay in school. I fucked off. I didn't go to school. You know what I mean? But it's
I mean, all right. So this is a real dialogue right here.
Mm-hmm.
If we both came from the same streets, now can we say that our households may have had differences? Sure, but ultimately we were still a part of the same ecosystem. And so the question then becomes, at what point do you put some ownership back on the individual?
oh, I agree 100%. If we put an ownership on there, you can't stay a victim forever. You can't. I agree.
Can't
with
grow
that.
if you stay a victim forever.
There ain't no growth in that.
Right.
So that goes back to the freedom thing, right? So like,
Right,
yes,
so I want to give some numbers on it, right? How many individuals are able to rise up out of their own circumstance? Is that a normal thing, or would you agree that putting the onus on the individual don't track with real life math, though? Right? It does with social, right? That's how we taught. That's how we trained. That's the way you and I have understood, right? But do the numbers line up with that? Like how often of it? How many people by numbers, right, by a percentage, come from an environment that's under, right, and excel?
I think that's challenging on so many reasons. And even if I extrapolate it, outside of the Black community and talk about what I've
No,
seen from
you can do this. This is human. This ain't just
right,
Black.
right. So I would say that the statistic would probably land somewhere between 7 and 15%.
I agree with that 100%. That would have been the exact numbers I was going to give. I'd have said no more than 15%. That means out of every 10 people, 8.5 of them physically can't rise above their environment. I want you to know that this tracks literally with psychology and social science.
Here's the question that I would pose, regardless of the statistic. If given the same resources, right, even if the resources are minimal, what would you say intrinsically makes the 15% different than the 85?
Grit.
Okay, and so the question I then have,
What was your answer?
he said grit.
Grit.
Mm-hmm.
And
The
so
ability to stick that shit out and not quit.
Right.
And so the question I then would pose is, when we look at Howard University, right? You go through a degree of a crucible when you go to Howard University and matriculate through that illustrious institution. But here's the thing. The people that go to Howard University are a part of a 15%. Mm-hmm. And then within that culture, we start to make new percentages, right? Mm-hmm. We're all given the same resources, and yet still within that ecosystem, some people excel more than others.
Right.
Now, coming into that ecosystem, I happen to be at the bottom. Like literally, I don't think you could have got much worse, right? Like this is coming from just higher education. I came to Howard, and my first couple months there, like I would sit in the back of the class, like I actually don't understand anything you guys are saying.
That was my experience as well. Coming from excelling in my environment, right, to switching, and now literally being at the bottom of the top, and it felt oppressive. And my ass was in study hall and with a tutor for hours.
Facts.
Here's
the question then, right? Yeah. So now we are in a new ecosystem, right? Mm-hmm. And you are seemingly at the bottom, and yet I would be willing to say that you probably left that ecosystem at the top.
I did.
So then the question then becomes, can you continually blame the ecosystem itself, or do you have to put ownership on the individual? Because while I came in,
I'm gonna say both.
I think it is both, but I
100% my environment affected me. 100%. Because even though I came out on the top statistically wise, I lacked so much in attitude and development. Again, because of my environment.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think getting into the professional world, there was definitely a hard transition for me to not respond to things the way I would from my upbringing, right? Like,
Yeah. Like
I think that's fair.
32 the last time I got into a physical fight.
Say that one more time.
I was 32 the last time I got into a physical fight.
Man, I'm trying to think. How old was I for my last
Everything
one?
about my environment, and then when I joined the Marine Corps, it was still continued and perpetuated, right? That violence is the answer. No, it's not. It's not. But my environment played a role, and it literally shaped my thinking. Now, you could say, like, at what point do you put onus on the individual? But I would say to that, at what point do you expect a person to be able to model their life off of a dream or something that they've never seen? So there got to be some kind of balance.
That's the challenging part. You have to fabricate, the your new reality from your own imagination.
And only the top 15% has the peace of mind and the wherewithal to be able to pull that off. Do you because it's you and it's your day, and I get it, because this is another way where we relate, right? Because it's you and you just living, you like, oh, it's nothing, right? But if it was just nothing, if it was that simple, then wouldn't everybody do it? When you read a book, you hear a voice in your head more than likely, right?
Fair enough.
Yeah. A lot of people, so studies show that not everybody has that voice in their head. That's developed through reading comprehension and thought and imagination. And it's mad Americans that lack that.
Yeah.
So I just think that we for sure got to put onus on humans, man. Like I teach my children every day, the decisions we make depict the life we live. That is like my household standard for accountability, right? So for sure. But I also don't want to disregard that humans, by and large, respond with very predictable behavior in very specific situations. And when situations are designed for outcomes, you keep seeing the same outcome. And when that happens, you got to blame the system and not the humans in it. And I think that the hood as a construct is one of those things where that's why I struggle to blame the outcomes of the hood on the individuals that are in the system that continuously produces the same results. Because even us as the cream of the crop, we still struggle with our foundational education when we went off to another branch of the tree. That is the clearest indication that the system is failing. If the top 15% is struggling, how you think that the bottom 15% is expected to make it? They can't.
I mean, I do think it's an uphill battle, right? I think it's, you got to put in a degree of work, and like you said, it requires grit. I think the problem for me is when we look at a situation as unwinnable. I've always had the mindset that a problem is a problem and there is a solution. You just got to be willing to thug it out, to figure it out. Mm-hmm. And I think that is a skill that Americans lack, right? Like I've seen it.
By design, by the way.
I say it again.
By design.
That's fair. But
grit until it got programmed away from us.
I've seen it on so many levels. I've seen it in college. I've seen it in high school. I've seen it in the military. I've seen it in real estate. I see it now at my new job, right? Like it'd be simple tasks, and you'll look and you'll think to yourself, you'll ponder on it for a second, like, you know what? I have a hypothesis. I think this can work. And this would be a problem that people was dealing with for months. And you like, I walked in and I thought the solution was pretty obvious. You know what I mean? And so I think problem solving is nothing more than a historical collection of bringing together a bunch of experiences and things that you've learned over the years and being able to apply it. I think the challenging part is there is a degree of synthesis that people are not using. Right. So like we can make the argument that there are systemic issues. I agree that there are systemic issues, but like even knowing the systemic issues, you're not pushing back with the experiences and knowledge that you gained over the years. right? Like most black people in America can tell you that, you know, Martin Luther King did X, Malcolm X did X. We experienced this throughout the years, and this is how it happened. Now, there's some minute details that some people probably can't explain. But I would still argue that there's probably a solid 30% that could. And yet, we still talk about numbers of like, you know, 15% of people that can excel knowing the things that you go up against. And so I push back to say that, like, I think people are complacent in a lot of this, right? Like you don't do better because you choose not to do better, not because you don't have the resources, especially with the advent of YouTube.
Yeah. So I think that now that we're in the information age, individuals with access should use said access to better themselves.
Yo, broadband internet is crazy, and everybody in the hood got it.
Right, for sure. And Internet Essentials is real, and even if you ain't got that, you can go somewhere and there's some kind of building and they got Xfinity Wi-Fi broadcasting out for free. So I do agree with that.
And it's getting access to information is getting easier and easier. And so kind of going down this lane of like freedom, you have the ability to go into your phone and you can go to Google, you can go to Chat GPT, you can go to Perplexity, you can go to all these things, type in a question and get a response. And that response has a high degree of success in terms of like actually being right.
Right.
And so currently I would say that is expanding our freedoms, right? Your ability to access large amounts of information at the snap of a finger. The challenging part is the more reliant we become on this system,
the more dependent you are.
The paradigm changes and you're no longer potentially free.
Is it really expanding our freedoms, or is it suppressing our capabilities?
Listen, that's a challenging one, man. Because I think we are moving potentially into a state of suppressing abilities, which goes back to this idea that people don't know how to synthesize information and make decisions anymore, right? And
we're not taught that, bro. I learned that as a grown ass man in like my master's program, right? Now, it could be argued that on small scales, I synthesized information to my advantage, right? But again, that came from me having downtime to be able to think and process my days, right? Which is really a blessing, because when I was young, I ain't had that. And then it also came from, like I said, wherewithal, right? Now, fortunately for me, I love learning. So where most people will go and turn on a game or watch TV, I'll watch a documentary or read or listen to a podcast. And they usually all educational about business, science, politics, and some kind of mix of all of them, right? So eventually you start being able to say like, oh, this connects to that and that connects to that. And that's where I talk about wherewithal. That's what I really mean, like that. But I know that comes from a place of privilege, bro. I have a privilege in that. Like
your interest in educational and business related podcasts and books is a privilege.
No, not my interest in it. My ability to understand it and synthesize it comes from a place of privilege.
Well, I mean, exposure over time is going to give you a wherewithal, right? The problem is
we both had more exposure than the average bear,
but we sought the exposure.
That's fair. I agree with that.
So why, at scale, when we talk about American,
nonetheless, just because we sought it out, just because we were intentional to taking a privileged path, doesn't make our path less privileged.
Fair enough.
I got peers now that don't have the wherewithal that I have because they haven't been anywhere. Not that they weren't capable.
So let's take this to another level of dissecting free will, freedom, and I guess ultimately your ability to make sound decisions, right? Because that's a part of freedom, right? The ability to choose, but before choosing, knowing which one makes sense. So discernment. right? And there is two. We didn't talked political, we didn't touched financial, but I think there is one that at a baseline every human being has to deal with. And we can still say that a lot of people don't make rational decisions in this aspect. And so, what is your take on relational freedom?
So, uh, I think that that kind of stuff is where we're the most free. Anything that has to do with our individual will, because in a relationship, you free to cheat, but you also free to deal with the consequences, or you free to be faithful, and you free to deal with that, right? But there's no like with capitalism, right? Like the more money you make, you got to pay more in taxes. More than likely, you pay a higher quality of living. So it's like an adjusting scale. That's why I feel like nobody's free from capitalism except for the billionaires. And then once you reach that billionaire status, you still not free because now you a slave to your organization, literally. So I believe there's varying levels of freedom there. I think there's less levels of varying freedom when it comes to that because we are all equal when it comes to that. We all have free will unless we make a decision to lose it. That's where I think that we're most free. Our will.
So, we're most free with our we have free will to give to pick and choose our relationships and how we govern ourselves with society.
Absolutely. In every aspect. Like you get to pick or choose whether you want to pay attention in school or not. You get to pick and choose whether you want to behave in school or not. Then from there, you get to pick and choose what school or career path you pursue. You get to pick and choose
Now
whether
let's
you this job.
now let's stay on that same vein because that free will would then have a compounding effect on every aspect of your life.
Literally.
So
Absolutely.
so when we drill this thing down and we talk about freedoms, relational freedom, I guess would be the foundation to your potential barometers to success. Right? What type of relationships were you in early on in your childhood that gave you, for lack of a better term, enough rope to hang yourself, but was reinforced with some accountability?
Yeah. Can we tweak one word so it could be more in accordance with what I would agree with?
Okay.
Barometer. I don't know if I can agree with that.
Barometer.
Yeah. Gateway.
Okay. Say it
I
again.
think more of a gateway than a barometer.
Okay.
I think our
Okay.
relationship was a
Why
gateway.
why gateway as opposed to barometer?
Because of the compounding effect of it, right? So it's a gateway. Like, so for example, right? You can't choose your parents, but you can choose how you respond to your parents. So that's
Right.
why I feel like it's a gateway. And some people really just deal with things differently. And what would be like Tuesday to me would be life crushing to another person. And we're both right. So again, I don't know if our relationships are a barometer that could really measure how high we go, but I think that they're gateways because they could determine which path we go on. But I think that how high we go is definitely a function of the compound effect of our own decisions. So I think the barometer, I don't know if the barometer is for relationships because relationships more to an environment, and it certainly plays a role and it certainly has an effect and all of that. But yeah, I hope that makes sense.
I mean, it made sense. I can understand why you would want to choose the term gateway as opposed to barometer. Um, I think it sounds like, if I'm interpreting what you said, it sounds more or less like you're dealt some cards, and how you choose to play them is how you choose to play them. You don't really have a choice to sit down and play the game. You're going to play the game.
Right.
And so for that, it's almost equitable. But how you decide to play it is how you decide to play it. I think when we talk about systemic issues, if you're constantly playing spades and being dealt low spades, then it's a systemic problem when you play the game.
Correct.
Um,
Bingo. And that is the excellent tie-in of everything. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that there are a lot of people that are intentionally being dealt low spades for generations. So blaming them for being broke is hard for me. Blaming them for being slow or depressed or giving up is hard for me to blame them fully. Yes, they could have, but I think that could is a theory. I don't think it's really proven. I think that they never had a shot, if we being honest.
I think
Some
I
of them.
agree. I agree to some extent. I guess the challenging part would be at what point do you relook at the rules and say, you know what, I'm going to take a kneel.
Ain't that what drug dealers do?
That is challenging. That's challenging. I can see where you went with that. That is challenging. And I actually don't have a response to have a formal rebuttal because I that's a good point.
Thank you. That's the only point I was trying to make when we had that conversation before. That it's a rational decision given the environment.
I think it's challenging. I think there is a degree of rationale that goes to making the decision. I think the problem though is that the consequences compound, right?
Absolutely.
And so then it's like,
And maybe exponentially compound.
and so the question of whether you're making the right decision to, essentially go against the system, it kind of lends on the opposite head because at this point you're making your consequences worse for trying to navigate the system, right? And I mean, I guess that kind of falls in line with a Neil, right? Because once you can't play under the book, I mean, play under the spade, then you're cooked, and you already lost.
Right.
So
And then from there, revolt to the system in your way. And not everybody's revolt to the system is like what's Nat Turner. Not everybody's revolt looks like Nat Turner. Some people's revolt does look like Bumpy Johnson.
Fair. Yeah, but the problem with that, I love the story of Nat Turner, because I'm not going to say I'm naturally a violent person, but I do think if you back someone or something, any biology tells you if you back someone into a corner, they are going to respond. And I'm a firm believer in stop asking for political concessions, for lack of a better term, and look at the system for what it is and apply your leverage to get what you want. Right? Like
That's right.
It's an economic society, so figure out how to improve your economy and then force your will on, I mean, whoever you want. And so that's the challenging part because that's business.
Right.
Why? Okay, so this is a bigger question. I'm gonna see what your take is. Why do you think at scale Black America is less willing to play? Now, I'm not saying Black Americans don't play the game of business. I'm not making that argument. But at scale, Black Americans are less likely to play the game of business. America.
It goes back to one where I stated earlier that the system doesn't produce a product capable of meeting the civic need. Right? That's the first key. Civic need in whatever aspect. Understanding how business structures work, understanding finance, reading comprehension. Right now in America, regardless of color, only like 4 out of 10 students are graduating with math and reading literacy. That's horrible. We are FUGG and I and it up. We fucking it up. Like all the way up. Like horribly. Right? But if those numbers are America, imagine what Black people's numbers are. Right? We know it's worse. I don't know what the exact data is, but we know it's worse than 4 out of 10 graduating. Right? And it has been for how many generations? Second part. In this country, we only have about 130 years of on the books freedom and about 40 years of actual enfranchisement that just went away, by the way, with the cutting of the Voting Rights Act.
Mm.
So our grandparents had institutional knowledge of a time where they was a second class citizen, and we've grown up feeling like it. And we learn the stories of Tulsa, and we learn the stories of Rosewood, and we learn the stories of the civil rights riots, right? And then we watch the crack epidemic happen right before our eyes, right? So I think that you get to a point where people are like, man, listen, damned if I do, damned if I don't. I'm gonna take the easy route out. I think it's apathy from being beat down and giving up.
I think that's a very interesting perspective. Um, and so I'm a one start by saying I do agree with you. I'm gonna challenge it though to say when we hear stories like Tulsa, why are we not using the story of Tulsa, Oklahoma as a blueprint to success? Right. And so what my takeaway from Tulsa, Oklahoma, yes, we can talk about the historical context, right? What was Tulsa, Oklahoma? Well, Tulsa, Oklahoma was essentially the Black Wall Street of the past. And the only way that outside factors could tear down that economy built by Black success was to literally come in, loot, pillage, and burn it down to the ground, which was technically, I hate saying this because but it is the truth. It was a military operation, right? Bombs were dropped from planes. Like that's no matter how you look at that, right? Like large external forces went against that economy.
Correct.
But here's where I would say you use that experience as a blueprint, right? And so we can't subjugate ourselves by making an economy built around one ecosystem, right? The economy has to be ever flowing and through multiple industries, multiple locations, right? Multiple businesses working together with one goal in mind. And we talked about this, a couple podcasts ago, where it's like it's easier to do that with 5 people than it is with 50.
Right.
I can agree to that. But the conversation is not even being had.
Right.
At scale.
Right.
Like there used to be a time where these types of conversations were happening in the church.
Yeah.
And so we got to hit on spiritual freedom.
Yeah.
What is the reluctance of our communities to lean on the presence of God, whether you are praying to God or Allah, or I should say Jesus, not God, Jesus or Allah. I think if I'm going to be blunt with my opinions here, I think the problem is that as a society, not just Black, but as a society, like American society, we are choosing to do away with accountability. I mean, that's the brass tacks of things, because what religious society and community has always done is it's giving you a baseline of accountability. We've adopted a culture that lacks accountability. I mean, it's evident in, like, I'm not going to say I'm a traditionalist, but I do think there are things of the past that I think women embodied years ago, that gave them I would say the mantle to call themselves the most accountable in our society. And it's dropping by a wayside day and day. Like, is the female the bedrock to the household now?
I would say now at this point, where it used to be a blanket yes, now it's the answer is as simple as it depends on the household.
And that is terrifying. Right? Because society has always been predicated on the woman being the backbone of the house and the man going out and providing, right? We're using those types of that language, right? But that's questionable now.
No, for sure. And so to not to be the dead horse, but it wasn't by mistake. that they first started out with the welfare program that required men to not be in the house, and they actually literally hired state hired social workers to come and inspect what they expected to ensure that there was no men in the house. And then from there, crack got men in the streets, and mass incarceration got men in jail. So we got 3 generations of no men and of women having to hold it down. And then that has masculine made women more masculine as a result of survival. And then on top of that, while simultaneously adding in the fact that black men lack skills for employability by and large, right? So now our ability to earn as a group is lower than our women's ability to earn. So now you got women who don't literally need a man for economics, and the society has taught us that we safe enough for life that we don't need protection, right? So you got a bunch of men out here who, with good reason, feel useless. So now that's the reason why this shit is broken. The system was intentionally broken. I don't believe that we just woke up one day and was like, yo, let's fuck our families up, right? I don't think it happened like that. I don't think there was any kind of collective decision that was made where we shifted away from it. I think it was behavioral economics that came about and was designed and implemented slowly but surely through crafty propaganda from movies and music videos and sitcom televisions and all different kind of things that shape mindsets. I remember watching Living Single, and I watched a episode of it on reruns recently, and they was like, "Ooh," and in the '90s kind of world, and you see the women and everything, and it's like the whole independent woman move. You saw it being programmed and budded then, right? So I think it was a long-term strategy. And I agree that where we're at now with the end result, it's a very broken situation because we don't even really know how to be a family unit anymore. But I also know that this is not just a black people problem no more. This is an American problem.
That's where I was about to go. I was just letting you, land the plane, but it's bigger than the black community. This is a societal problem. This is America's problem. Households can't be households anymore. Here's a very interesting statistic. In terms of marriages, right? In terms of like the marriage being prosperous, this is crazy statistics. Both financially and longevity and survivability of the marriage. Gay homosexual males
Have the highest number
statistic to
I've read
stay
that.
in a thriving marriage.
Yeah, it's like 70%.
Just listen to that. But here's what makes the statistic even more challenging or eye-opening, for lack of a better term. On the flip side,
women have the worst statistics.
homosexual women have the worst statistics. Like, listen to that.
Yeah.
So what does that tell you about our society? And I've had this conversation in several groups because we use the word freedom and it dilutes the term accountability, right? And I've been a firm advocate that in order for a black male or even any male to be successful in life, there's a degree of accountability that has to be infused into his upbringing. The challenging part is that in most societies, young women are not forced with that same type of upbringing that revolves around accountability. Oftentimes, you see less accountability in a young age on the side there of the female. And now we look at our statistics as it is today.
Yeah, but I feel like that's just nature at play, right? Women's job was never to be the structure. So why would accountability be in the forefront of their mind? That's what fathers are for.
So, but that's the challenging part. I think I can agree with you and say that it's never been designed for them necessarily to be the structure. But the interesting part is when we look at, our society historically, women were always the structure within the house. So
Yeah,
then,
it was only in our ages growing up. That wasn't like that back when Granddad was out there running the house, right? In the early 1900s, women were the glue, but it was a wait till your father get home, and the kid was scared type of time. All of the old school movies, what?
I would still say that they were still the structure though, right? Like I I think they were the structure, and the dad would come home and be the enforcer. But the limits, the left and right limits to what you should be doing, it was still advocated through the female.
All right, so yes, I agree with that. So I wouldn't call them the structure as much as I would like. Women were always in charge of the operations, right? But I like so as far as like you said, the left and like right lateral limits was communicated to you mostly through your mom because of them young ages, right? But then when it came time for all of the other stuff, that was dad. He was the silent thing, like the rock that's there, right? Holding everything up, holding that floor up so that your mom could do what your mom could do. Um, Saying the mama bear later because that was who was reeling mama bear, and if mama bear was like getting to the point where mama bear wasn't taking accountability, Papa Bear was the one that was going to step in, and when Papa Bear wasn't doing it, that's when shit was falling apart. And that go all the way back to the Bible. When Adam didn't take accountability, shit fell apart.
So that is my listen. I'm glad you went to Genesis because I think Genesis is the perfect foundation to help. I mean, for the people that are willing to open the Bible up and read it, right? But like, if you can make it through Genesis, your entire mindset changes. You just got to get through Genesis.
Right.
But I do want to take the time to turn it over to the comment section. I believe it's Teresa Scott. And she said, let's see. I worked for the welfare department for 31 years. I disagree with some of what you say. When we did home visits, it was not making sure men were not
No,
on the household.
if this was in the 70s, Miss Teresa, I don't think you was working there then. This part welfare first began when they was doing home inspections in the 70s. I'm talking about before any of our time. Now, when you was doing it in the late 90s, then yeah, you're right. That's when drugs came back and all of that. And I agree. Crack was definitely as far as my institutional life knowledge, what I remember, because I don't got no memories of the 70s. I wasn't born until 86. So, but for sure, in my lifetime, the crack epidemic was the issue, and social workers wasn't doing home checks for that. But by that time, it had already evolved. The welfare system had already evolved by the time the 90s came. I'm talking about long before the 90s. Early adoption of the welfare system is when they was doing home visits. And listen, this is factual stuff. That wasn't my opinion.
I agree. I do think when welfare was established, there were some rules that were set, and they enforced those rules. And one of them being the man can't be in the house. It even went to the point where like people would hide certain appliances, right? Like I don't think we were doing that in the 90s, early 2000s.
No, I don't even think that they was doing home visits checking for genders anymore. I think it had evolved to the point where that didn't even matter no more. That it was all income based. I think by the time it was the 90s, it was income based. It had nothing to do with gender.
Right.
But I ain't 100% sure on that part because I was only 6 in 92. So
I think it's wild to say that like people were actually going and like hiding appliances or like hide male clothes. If you was at the house but you wasn't supposed to be at the house, they were hiding your clothes. That's crazy. You know
Richard Pryor made jokes about it in his stand-up.
Yeah.
About how his uncles would have to run out of the house when his mom's social worker would come over.
And so we can wrap it up. I think we covered freedom in totality, right? Like, is freedom free? I think we can both agree that freedom was never really free as we portray it.
Right.
Because the way that we talk about it in this current society, it lacks accountability, and accountability is always a part of any society that you're in. I mean, it's natural laws. So yeah, I think Pierre's stance was freedom is a thing, and I'm interested to see what his opinion is post show.
Me too, man. But I think we only as our decisions allow us to be.
100%.
Called me. What you say, bro?
Yeah. What is your opinion post show on freedom?
Post show on freedom, I think there are a lot of extenuating circumstances that allow us to believe that freedom isn't real because of the way we see black people, the way we've been treated in history. Um, but for me, like I said, freedom is in your mind, bro. You feel me? Like I'm not worried about how nobody else views me or feels about me. If I feel as though I'm free, and I want to free other people. I want to give other people the belief in themselves, right? So I'm maybe I'm above. I'm somewhere else. I'm not on the ground. Like I said, y'all deal with numbers. I don't deal with numbers. So y'all are exact to the dollar. I'm more out here free. I'm a hippie. I'm out here free loving and yeah, we vibing like this, we chilling. You feel me? Like that's what I do. So, but freedom is in your mind, bro. Freedom allows us to think past where we are right now and want more for each other.
It's funny. It's funny you say freedom is mine. Have you ever been in a situation where someone, or maybe even you, opened your mouth in a room, and then the response you get from one of your friends or somebody else in the room, they say, "You didn't read the room."
No,
Right?
because I'm typically that friend that's able to tell people, "Yo, this is this room," right? And I'm not really going to open my mouth because it's not going to be accepted. I don't just go around free dealing like that, right? So,
So then your freedom's dialed back then.
no, my freedom's not dialed back. I just know where my freedom is applauded and where my freedom is seen as a threat. You feel me? I can play dumb. Oh, I play dumb very well. Ooh, right? I do that very well. But I also understand that that's a part of freedom as well. Being able to play smart and being able to play, a little aloof. Right?
Fair
I don't
enough.
have a problem with that.
And
Right.
I think that's good. What you just said, because there's a degree of discernment there,
Right.
and to have what Andrew was talking about, levels of freedom, there has to be some degree of discernment. And so I think we've talked about this topic at nauseum. P, close us out.
Yo, I want to thank everybody for tuning in, man. This is Culture Uncut. You already know where we cut up the culture and give it out in small bite-sized pieces, man. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I know I'm in the light. I'm doing a podcast right now. I got the Delver Diaries taking place in the other room, so I'm working, man. Always working, man. I appreciate my brothers Nasir and Andrew for taking the time out to do this podcast with me, man. Let's keep it going. There might be some situations where I can't show up, but I'll be here, and Nasir and Andrew can handle this because I trust them with my life. Literally, if there's nobody out there you can trust with your life, it's somebody that was in the Marines and somebody that was in the Army, because they know how to shoot. They gonna carry me out whether I'm hit. They not gonna leave no soldier behind. Let's go, man. CMPRadio.net, man. Thank y'all, brothers. I love y'all. Stay here. Don't leave off, because y'all be quick to leave when I end this joint, man.
Hey, shout out to Teresa, that loyal viewer out there. She just said she enjoyed the show, so that's good.
Yeah.
Enjoyed it as well. Thank you for having us on. Thank you for coming and have us on the show with us.
All right. Peace.